Hannah Wallace and welcome to Finextra TV. Kindly joining us in the studio today is Gareth Wilson, UK Banking and Capital Markets Business Lead for Capgemini, and Elias Ghanem, Vice President and Global Head of Capgemini Research Institute for Financial Services. Hello to the both of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Bonjour.
Hi, Elias. Thank you very much. You've come all the way from Paris, I know. And now I want to begin our discussion today by reflecting first on the rapid growth of digitalization we've seen across the industry and what that's led to, notably the rise of platform business models and a shift in customer needs and expectations. So Gareth, coming to you first then, can you maybe run us through some of the challenges banks have faced as a result of this? Let's start there.
Hannah, I think you're spot on in terms of, customer expectations. Increasing customer expectations is one of the things the banks and the financial services industry has been dealing with for some time now. But I think with the advent of FinTech and what the FinTechs have done in terms of increasing customer experience and the innovation that they've brought to their products and services, I think that's put further challenges on the banking industry. And you don't have to just listen to me on that. We here at Capgemini have recently done a survey, a Voice of the Customer survey for 8,000 customers globally, and it comes across very strongly. 75%, 3/4 of the customers are very much appreciating and enjoying the experience and the interaction that they get through the FinTech community. So that's a challenge for the banks. I think the good thing, if I'm looking for a positive for the banking industry, I think in terms of service, in terms of delivering transactions and transaction integrity, that's an area that they're doing well and will continue to do so. But when you're looking at value-added services and when you're looking at the experience in the engagement, that's definitely an area of focus for the banks.
All right, thank you very much for setting the scene there, and it's good to talk about the positives as well as the challenges. And now, Elias, staying on the topic of connecting experiences for customers then, perhaps you can highlight some of the areas that banks might be struggling in around this.
So in fact, in the customer survey that we've done, we've asked our customers about what are you getting from your bank? And there are really 3 layers. I'm getting service, I'm getting value, I'm getting emotions. And to Gareth's point, they are getting the service, no problem. My transactions are being handled. When it comes to value, it's not there. And when it comes to emotion, it's definitely not there. In fact, our customers are telling us, I'm not having fun with my bank. We never go to a bank to have fun, but by fun, they mean emotions. They need knowing themselves, helping them in their experience. When we ask them the same question on the FinTech, to Gareth's point, 75% of them saying, I am having fun, and fun means I'm willing to change. And that's, I think, if there is one major risk for the traditional banks is the risk of attrition of all the younger generation, but not only, by the way, not only the millennial, everybody looking at a digital bank, giving them the service, the value and the emotions they are looking for.
Well, following on from that, what should be the response then the banks should be taking? What should they be investing in and leveraging to meet those challenges, and why? Gareth?
It certainly is a challenge, and I would say, Hannah, execution is key here. And then when you get under execution, I think you need to look at your technology capabilities and your ways of working. And again, unfortunately, I think the banks have to look towards to some of the FinTech organizations in terms of, the technology that they've deployed, cloud native technologies, lots of investments in insight and data analytics and artificial intelligence, but also the ways of working. How can they respond very rapidly to the changing requirements? How can they very rapidly bring new products and services to market? So I think the banks need to focus on the execution from a technology point of view. And again, when we ask that question, a significant proportion of the banking executives don't necessarily have confidence that they've got the technology platforms to be able to deliver the level of personalization, for example, to their customers. So I think the banks need to invest in technology, whether that be their core platforms, whether that be their APIs, or whether that be their data analytics capability. But also they need to leverage this breadth of data that banks have. And again, on the positive side of the equation, they benefit from a significant degree of data, but how can they leverage that data to really capture the customer and also maybe start to deliver some of that increased value and that increased emotion that Elias was referring to.
All right, that's interesting, and I hear you loud and clear, some good advice there. So Elias, you've both covered the challenges and some of the struggles, so how do you think banks can deliver connected omni-channel experiences in that case?
They really need to look at what the others are doing. Usually, in fact, when the new players came, they looked at what the banks were doing and they did it better. I think it's time now to turn it around. We call it Decode the value loop. Look at how these guys are creating value through value, emotions, and connections. Decode that and do the same. Engage with the customer across from before the acquisition, through the acquisition, on the engagement, and on the retention. So once you have decoded that, you need to transform. I think Gareth put it quite well. You need to transform the digital capabilities that you have through AI. You need to also transform the data capabilities. Open banking is probably the best thing that could happen to everybody. Some benefited more of it. New players got the value out of it. After all, banks have the data. Banks, unfortunately, don't use it. So really, it's about transforming your data capabilities and your technology so you can deliver, which will get you to embrace the new way of doing business. And I really believe that embracing is not only a tech challenge, it's also a human capital challenge. There is a major opportunity for banks to catch up on think differently. Don't build everything, don't buy everything, collaborate. There's a fantastic ecosystem of startups that are not only here to compete, some of them are here to enable. Use them, get what is best of each one of them, so you can decode what the others have done, you can transform yourself, and then you can embrace the new way of doing business. By getting there, they will get back on the customer mind. Because I think they have, if I may remind you one thing, banks have the most important thing that customer wants is trust. So if I have the trust and the experience, why would I go look somewhere else?
All right, so I'm hearing decode, transform and embrace. Thank you for that, Elias. So let's talk about the role of a CMO then, because that's an interesting one and looking at how it's evolved. How do you think a CMO should be embracing ecosystem strategies? Because that's a big one.
Oh, Hannah, I think it's a great question, and I think we really have touched on the opportunity for the CMO to have a greater influence on this engagement journey that we've set out. I personally wouldn't claim to be an expert on the role of the CMO, but I think traditionally we've seen the CMO play a role in terms of above the line marketing, in terms of the brand. And to Elias's point about collaboration and ways of working within the organization, we see the opportunity for the CMO to have a greater influence, whether it be in terms of product, whether it be in terms of the digital journey, whether it be in terms of the customer experience. And I think the banks need that role to pull all of those elements together to really capture and engage their customers more effectively. And again, I think it's an opportunity where the banks can learn from some of the fintechs. This idea of a chief customer officer, a chief growth officer, the fintechs have leveraged that from the outset in terms of how they drive their customer engagement and their growth. And actually coming back to the kind of capabilities that are required, data will be key in that. And I think the CMO, really has to understand how he or she can capture data to help drive that customer experience and that journey. And we've seen some examples of organizations do it, but as I say, I think it's another example where the big banks can learn from what some of the fintech successes have been.
All right, thank you for that, Gareth. And Elias, is there anything you'd like to add there?
What you have observed on the fintech, as Gareth put it quite well, they don't call CMO. In fact, they don't have a chief marketing officer. They have a chief growth officer. They have a chief customer officer. Even some banks, Bank of America recently announced that as their CMO retire, they will not replace her by a CMO, but they will bring the CMO under the chief digital officer. Every CMO we have interviewed, we asked them about their team, and I said the significant portion of their team are not marketers, are data scientists. Clearly, they need to embrace the data, they need to leverage what they have already in-house, and if they combine it with better capabilities of delivery, a multi-channel experience, a very personalized experience, I will get fun, I will get personalization, I will stay, I will engage, and I will remain a very active customer, and I will be a net promoter to my bank later on.
All right, brilliant. Well, taking all of that into account then, what's the final message you'd like to end on? What advice would you give to those banks watching, and what does success look like?
I think for me, Hannah, I think we've got to build on the capabilities and the strengths that the banks have, and we've touched on that, whether it be the trust element or whether it be the breadth of data they have. But I think they really do have to focus on the execution and leveraging the technology capabilities to really capture that customer experience and capture that the emotions that I think some of the fintech community have got a head start on.
Brilliant. Elias?
I would say it's really about empowering. Empower this chief growth officer or chief marketing officer so they can work on the 3 levels of the relationship. Deliver the service, bring the value, and connect, get the emotions. And this is where if I leverage the most important thing of a bank, trust, and I add it into a data and channels, customer will remain engaged, profitable, and happy.
There we go. Some very good advice to end on. Thank you both for sharing your insights today. It's been a pleasure, and look forward to inviting you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah.